essential to scale it up, and how we've been successful scaling it up in Finland is that in the early stage, I realized when starting all this, or actually with starting all of these operations, it's not about me, it's about the team, and it's about educating all the time new people. So I put 90% of my effort educating new guys and giving them responsibilities and brainstorming with them what to do. So I think as in a startup, you build your team and you do it together. And what I've done during the past year, which is extremely hard, is that the most important job that I've had is to make myself unnecessary and make the other people to take responsibility, and hopefully to find those leaders from the school that can again do the same. And what has happened is that we have roughly 70, 60 people at the moment on daily basis working voluntarily on different projects, and I have nothing to do with, I only work at startup, so everything else is run by the new guys, and this has happened with, and I think that's the snowball effect that needs to happen in every, whatever you do, in startup eventually too, but in the building the ecosystem, because I think when I stop working, if there is not new guys, it dies away with anything else to say.
I think that for mine, where I still consider student entrepreneurs a startup itself, we're still figuring out how to make the most impact possible. Before we can scale, we're working on different projects. We take our projects from around the world on Entrepreneurs Week, hackathons, things that work the best overseas and do them in Australia. I think we're pretty close to having a business model that's going to scale, but at the same time it is important for the new people to come through and run it themselves and to make yourself replaceable. I'll get back to you in a couple of years and hopefully the proof will be in my actions.
Okay, thank you. So first find other leaders who are able to grow another generation of leaders and spread the network like this. And you're saying experiment, look for good models, copy them, iterate, and implement, checking what works and what doesn't. Okay, thank you very much. Do we have other questions? We have a question up there, if I can ask the microphone.
Thank you. My name is Julian Bach. I come from the investment community. I have a venture capital background. Well, we've been thinking in Germany a lot about what you could do to improve entrepreneurship. We have started about 50 business plan competitions. I would say there are about 5 who are moderately to very successful. I would be interested how much the input is you needed in terms of capital and time. Of course, I understand there's a lot of voluntary work, but if you think about scaling or professionalizing it, if that is possible at all, then it would be interesting to hear also for EIT to understand what resources are needed so you could scale.
Sure. We operate off a shoestring budget. Money investment in that would allow us to make more investments into student startups. But I find that today, to actually get a startup off the ground, it's not very expensive. If the entrepreneurs themselves can't raise $5,000 or $10,000 to buy domain names and websites, they're probably not going to make it in the first place. It's good to cover the living expenses so they can focus, which is what most startup accelerators have money for. But really, it's a test of the entrepreneurs themselves to get the startup off the ground. In Australia, it costs under $1,000 to do all the legal work and the domain names and whatnot to get a startup going. So the money is important, but it's not a factor that's holding it back so much.
I think
just one more question. It would be really important to me that you can put a figure on it also because
it would be really important to me if you could put a figure on it, because it's also important to discuss that on the European level, to put it into perspective, how much you can achieve with a little bit of money.
I haven't thought too long about figures, but I think from the Startup X in Stanford, they operate, I think, a few $100,000. Other venture funds, I mean, it's for the seed accelerators, it's normally around 20,000 for around 5% equity, and as Y Combinator has proven, you can take more than 60 startups per batch. So, you know, a few $1 million to get started to ensure that it will go for a few iterations, and you're looking at a good thing.
I think there is two different things to think about. The other one is that what startup needs to get off the ground, and what these seed accelerators or whatever the operations are, what they need to get the things going. I think, at least in Finland, we have the best innovation ecosystem in the world, and I believe that there is too much public funding available for the startups. So the money is not the problem, the focus and the experience is probably more. Too much money is bad for what I've seen for the startups. It makes them lazy, it makes them out of focus, and it also, the natural selection that should be happening is not happening in the really early stage. On the other hand, what we do at Startup Canada, we have 3 full-time people working at the accelerator, running all the operations. So, and 2 of them are students, and 1 of them is an experienced entrepreneur that we recruited. So he needs to get a bit more pay than the students. So that's the salary, and then we are lucky enough to have Alto. We are located at the Alto University campus, so Alto actually pays us the facility. So we can use, there is a lot of other people using the facility, but we can use the Alto Venture Garage facility, which is, the biggest expense that an incubator, at least in Finland, has. To the date, we haven't invested any money to any of the startups. We just cover some of the expenses during the program, and I think it's, from my perspective, it's not even needed, because what we do is we make sure that the startups, within the few months' time, they are ready to raise funding from the best investors in Europe or in Silicon Valley, and we are not among those. We are not the best investors, at least yet. But what the startups needs during the 3-month period is roughly 10K. They need to get noodles and porridge to eat and somewhere to sleep, and most of them actually sleep on the floors of Venture Garage or in the back room, a lot of them. So I think in the we work in really, really early stage when you don't need money, you need to prove what you do. And then, but on the other hand side, then there is a lot of research grants for the people that are injured. So there is a lot of academic research or whatever research grants from TECES or Finnish Innovation Agency backing the research they are doing. But we focus on really on building the product and getting the people out and the attitude building and building the business, which is not needing that much money yet to help them raise money.
So I understand that the first thing to do is to go to the rector of your university and ask for this space in the middle of the campus. Is it the right conclusion? And the second thing is to go to industry and ask for sponsorship to get the basic costs covered.
Yeah.
And then to the venture capital industry to get the seed money to start the ventures. Okay, that's an entrepreneurial model. We have, another question, and then a question here from the chairman.
Hi, my name is Koning Kleiner from Utrecht University. I was involved in the Climate Kick. My question to you is twofold. First, what do you believe are the biggest hurdles personally for people to start being entrepreneurial? And second, what in your experience are the most common mistakes that these, let's call them wannabe entrepreneurs, make when they start out?
Sure. So the first part of the question, hurdles. Yeah. So for some reason, the hardest part of startups for most people is getting started. It's paradoxical. I think just having that passion and believing you can make a difference, believing you are onto some sort of world-changing just the belief and the passion to get started is important. The biggest mistakes people make is many that don't consider their ideas strong enough, or they don't understand the industry they're getting into. It helps to be a domain expert in whatever problem you're trying to solve. Too many startups I find want to start something in a field they have no understanding of and expect to make a startup and exit in 12 months. It's going to take them at least 3 to 5 years of working and trying to do that startup in that industry to understand how it works, who the connections are, to really make a difference.
I totally agree with both of those, and I think, especially in Finland, but I think it applies to all of Europe, the biggest hurdle, at least what I see, is the lack of hunger, lack of persistence. And where it comes from is that, especially in Finland, it's a great welfare state and huge social security, and that actually kills the killer instinct and the street fighter attitude that you need to start a company. It's too easy to be too well off without starting a company. So and then in Finland, the other thing is that that what used to be and what we are trying to change, and I think it applies to whole Europe. Well, it's not okay to fail. So if you fail, which implies 9 out of 10 startups, they fail. But it's not failing, it's learning. But it's not okay to fail. But think about it, it's not okay to succeed either. If you make huge amount of money, you might become a criminal more as a hero. So I think those two things are the biggest hurdles which are changing fast, but still plays a role. And the biggest mistakes, I believe, what I see in Finland and in its surrounding areas is not getting out from the building, not getting out from the country, and so thinking that you know something if you talk to customers in Finland, and then getting, in an early stage, getting a lot of public funding, which happens to a lot of the startups. It means that you focus on getting the public funding instead of building something worth for the customers. And I don't mean that the public funding is bad. I mean that in the early stage, when you don't know what you do, you should absolutely have no money, and you should absolutely talk only to customers and experienced entrepreneurs giving you feedback. And later on, when you start to raise money, you know what you do. When you start to execute, then it's good to leverage all the funding available anywhere, and there is nothing bad with getting public funding involved in that stage too.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from the chairman. Okay, question from the audience. I see a hand up there. And this probably will be, we have time for 2 more questions, so this one and one more person right here.
Thank you. My name is Marlene Schubert-Kienbeck. I'm from the Australian Federal Ministry for Science and Research. So I'm one of those public servants Mr. Pongabar mentioned. I just wanted to ask which hopefully helpful measures you expect from your governments on the regional and national and also on the European level. What can governments do for you and for the young entrepreneurs to get things started? Although you just said that funding might not be too helpful in an early stage, but which measures are good? Thank you.
So I think we've discussed this a lot with our government back in Finland, and I think the best thing, or if you think of it that way, that what is lacking, what is the most important thing that is lacking in Finland, in Northern Europe as a whole, it is the experienced entrepreneurs that have done great businesses globally that are actually located there. And at the beginning they are mentoring and helping with their network. In the future they will become investors. And Israel has done a great job. It took 30 years for them to find the model, but after 30 years of failing, they realized the YOSMA program, and what they did is that they leveraged public funding to get experienced VCs to establish companies. And with experienced VCs, I mean most of those guys that have run businesses before and early stage VCs that know what happens. So what they did, they gathered the VCs to establish companies. They have VC funds in Israel. And what starts to happen is that these VCs starts to mentor the best startups, they invest in them, and they create great businesses, and there becomes new entrepreneurs. So I think the best use of government funding definitely would be to get those experienced VCs from overseas or in Europe. If we have some great VCs, but we need more, especially in Finland. They're mostly in London and Frankfurt. So getting those VCs to establish companies and do asymmetric funds or whatever is the right name.
For Australia, it's kind of far away to everything. So I think we have, we're by comparison, we're relatively close to Asia, and we have a lot of international students. It's actually one of the second or third highest industry in Australia is educational influence. Making it, the government can make it easier for those students who come over, because they're often hungry and they often don't have easy lives from home. They're often got the passion and desire to start a business, but it's very hard for them even when they're not permanent residents or citizens.
So that's actually a very good point. And whatever EU in any specific location can do to foster the students, the entrepreneurs coming in and starting companies in Europe, that's the greatest thing that we can do. Not closing the borders for anyone coming, and that's the problem of US. I mean, there is a huge amount of entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley that can't. I mean, they have to go back and forth all the time. They can't work because there is no visa. So I think that could be a competitive advantage for EU to actually make it really easy to get the foreign entrepreneurs to start companies in here.
I understand the conclusion here is that we should have an EIT passport. We'll take it further and develop into a project. Thank you very much. And the last question, the lady here.
Thank you very much. My name is Nevena, and I'm representing the European Students' Union. Thank you very much, first of all, for your presentation and for pointing out